and welcome to another episode of the I Heal, We Heal podcast. I'm your host, Melissa. Today, I want to talk about one of the toughest, if not the hardest lesson for the soul, but definitely the most worth it, and that is to surrender or surrendering. This was one of the first things that I did on my cancer healing journey. And looking back at it now, definitely one of the best things that I could have done to help that health journey actually move forward. This looked like me accepting that there wasn't necessarily a right or wrong way on the path of healing, and that I just needed to start somewhere. And so, as I've talked about previously, one of the first things that I did was change up my diet. Wasn't necessarily going to stress myself over, I need to do this first and then I need to do this. I just kind of surrendered to the fact that, okay, we're healing cancer now and this is just what it is. And so I allowed all of these different healing modalities and therapies to just flow to me. As I saw it as if they came to me for a reason and I would try them. And I say that this was one of the best things that I did because pretty quickly I started to realize that everything was bringing me a piece of the puzzle on this healing journey. Everything brought me some clarity as to what weighed in to me getting sick and everything like that. Surrendering in this way allows you to experience and open up to everything that comes with the experience of healing without judgment. And so through that, you're opening yourself up to the full experience because you're not saying, I need to do this or I need to do that. You are just flowing with it and understanding that everything is helping in its way. And honestly, this goes for health challenges or not. Anything in life that we are faced with, we ultimately have the power to decide whether it's good, bad, up or down. We have the power of perception on things. And we have that choice. And so if you surrender to the full experience, you understand that it's just that. It's an experience. It doesn't have to be right or wrong. And I guess part of this is when trust comes in, because if you trust in that everything is part of your divine plan and can only work for you, then you are fully trusting in the process, regardless of what it looks like. Powerful way to shift this perspective into understanding that life happens for you is thinking about the fact that life is a teacher. And so the day that you choose to identify as the student, you lose that need to control. You lose the need to direct it in any way, because ultimately we only have control in the way that we respond to things, people, or places. And so it's when you shift your perspective to understand that life is just the teacher, you understand that your purpose is just to experience it. It's okay to reprogram yourself to believe that you are safe in the unknown. And I know that you're probably thinking, how is this possible? But when you are conditioned to think that you are unsafe and not knowing what your next step is, there is that uncertainty, and that uncertainty brings stress and anxiety. But when you start to understand and truly believe the fact that it's okay to not know what's coming next, you understand that there is no rush in creation and that you are ultimately your life's biggest project, not your career, not your education. Those are all wonderful and they're pluses to your experience, but you understand that you as an individual, all of the programmings and beliefs that you carry are your life's biggest project. Knowing yourself fully, holding space for yourself, compassion and understanding for yourself are ultimately your biggest projects in life. Personally, for me, vulnerability was one of the toughest lessons for me to learn to live through when I was healing cancer, because I was always Miss Independent. I've got this. Don't worry about it. I've always been the strong, happy friend that everybody turns to when their life was in chaos. And so for me, always that responsibility of being the one that's always okay, that, doesn't need the help. And so to be faced with cancer, you're quite literally physically and emotionally in your most vulnerable state now. Learning the fact that it's okay to accept and need help was a huge lesson, and something that was so, so tough at some points, because it taught me patience with myself and patience with my progress and how things were looking, as well as patience for those around me that tried to help me in the best ways that they could. And I was in a position where I had to accept the help. And what made this so difficult for me was because it was so foreign and uncomfortable to me. I was raised and programmed in a way that feelings and personal needs were never important enough. And asking for empathy or sympathy from others was seen as manipulation. When you associate accepting sympathy or empathy from others as manipulation, you steer very much clear from it. And unfortunately, I do understand that this is the case for a lot of people, not just myself, that growing up, talking about or communicating emotions was just something that wasn't done. It was seen as something fragile. This connection to your emotions and your emotional health is like a foreign language. As an adult, that looked like all of my emotions turned to anger and frustration. If I didn't know how to open up or communicate about emotions, that's what it turned to. It was anger or frustration, because I literally didn't know how to manage emotions or process them. And I believe that this ties so closely to what we as a society consider the hustle culture, because our emotional and mental health is very much pushed off to prioritize productivity or efficiency in areas like education or work, quite literally anything that's not associated with our mental health or emotional health. This was another programming that I had to deconstruct within myself, because I associated my worth to accomplishments. It wasn't until I realized that I associated my personal worth with accomplishments or productivity that I understood how disconnected I was from understanding the meaning of unconditional love. Unconditional love is something that ancestral medicines show you, and why I'm such an advocate, for ancestral medicines, but they do it in a way that you can't deny what it is that you're feeling, because it's a feeling. And so it's after you sit with ancestral medicines that you truly understand what unconditional love is, and just how distorted our understanding of what love is. Everybody grows up with an idea of what love is because of what we see around us. And so we go into the world with this very fixed perspective on love, and we seek it in these external ways. We seek it through validation, through our career, anything in our exterior. What ancestral medicines teach you is that unconditional love has nothing to do with our perception that we typically have of love. Ayahuasca taught me that my perception of love was transactional, which is most definitely not unconditional, right? It was transactional in the way that I unconsciously sacrificed my own emotional well-being for accomplishments. And it was through accomplishments that I obtained validation. And it was this validation that I associated with love. It took me deconstructing and understanding where the root of all of this was. And the root stemmed from the way that my parents and my culture upbringing taught me about love. It was a love in which Melissa got, good grades, And that is what deemed Melissa worthy of love, of recognition, and often physical affection from parents. So you can probably understand that someone with that set view on their perception of love and it being a transactional version skews the way that you go out into the world and seek it from externalities. And so all of this to say that surrendering to the full experience of things is the hardest lesson sometimes for the soul, because it means looking at aspects of yourself, quite literally core values and views to you, and completely deconstructing them. Surrendering means looking and seeking all of these answers within you. Surrendering also looked like me accepting the fact that illness was going to take me to a very physically low place. I remember my lowest weight that I got was like 89 pounds. My appetite was pretty much gone at some point. And this is why surrendering is so tough, because it's accepting all of the different stages that come with healing. It's not going to be pretty or easy. And so surrendering is understanding all of that and taking it as it comes. It's interesting because it's when we fail to surrender that life is like, okay, and it just continues to put up hurdle after hurdle for you to jump through to ultimately teach you the same lessons. With surrendering, you know that there's going to be hurdles. You jump over those hurdles as they come. I hope this gave you a little insight into the power of surrendering. Thank you.